Transfers are in, the preseason is underway, but let's be honest. Arsenal fans aren't just thinking about August. We're thinking about May. Can Arsenal really go one better this season? Who are we up against? And when we break it all down, goalkeepers, defense, midfield, attack, which club really has got the edge? Welcome back to Gooner Pavilion. Transfer window is wide open, and Arsenal have made some serious moves, but so have our rivals. So here's the question today: a simple question, but very complicated answer. Are Arsenal going to win the league this season? We're going to go position by position, NFL style. We're going to look at the goalkeepers, going to look at defenders, going to look at midfielders. We're also going to look at the forwards as well. And we're going to break it down, Arsenal against the Premier League's best. By the end of this episode, you're going to be either very confident or you're going to be a little bit nervous. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with goalkeepers. So Arsenal have David Raya, backed up by the newly signed Kepa Arrizabalaga. Raya's Golden Glove award should be a comfort, but many fans are still unconvinced, I'm included there, that he's elite. Kepa's experience, yes. Confidence inspiring, I don't know, debatable. So let's look at the competition. Newcastle, Nick Pope, when fit, decent. Dubravka backing him up. They've got Chelsea's Petrovic, Sanchez. Sanchez did extremely well in the Club World Cup. But if you ask Chelsea fans, they're not sure about him as well. And honestly, I'll probably say, I think a lot of people will probably agree with it. And then you now come to the elite, the two best keepers, I believe, in the Premier League. And that's Manchester Edison, cool, composed, proven. And then you've got Alisson Becker, best in the world. I think there is no contest there. So, I mean, out of 10, if I'm ranking the keepers, I'm giving Newcastle a 7, Chelsea a 6.5, Arsenal 7.5, I would say. And then you've got Edison and Ellison, a 9 out of 10. Those keepers probably give them 9.5 out of 10. So obviously Arsenal have depth, but don't have dominance in this department. So I will go Liverpool, closely followed by City. Then Arsenal is top 4 for keepers, but I wouldn't say number 1. Okay, let's look at defense. Defense, all about, shutting the door. Who's got the best defense among all of those teams. So let's look at Arsenal's backline. So we've got Saliba, we've got Gabriel, we've got Timber, and Moscara is already coming in into the door. And then you've also got, Timber as well. You've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's doing his thing there. And then you've got Benjamin White. Let's not forget about him. And this defensive unit kept up the fewest amount of goals last season. So we know that this system works under Arteta. Let's look at the rivals, right? It's got Newcastle. They're solid. You got Shah with Bodman. And then Trippier, I know that he's getting on in age as well. And then let's look at Chelsea. You've got, the backline they're building. You've got Disasi there, Badia Shield there, Tosin also there as well. I'll probably say Chelsea's backline is probably a little bit disjointed. Not a lot of chemistry in there. And then you've got City, you've got Guardiola, Stones, I mean, obviously Walker's left now. You've got Ake. They're versatile. And they know how to be resistant to the press, right? So you've got that, and then you've got Liverpool, Van Dijk, elite, but I would say is aging right now. And then you've got Konate, you've got Gomez, there, and then you've got Robertson. Obviously, Trent Alexander-Arnold has gone, but they're strengthening in that position, right? They've got in a left back there, who can probably play both left back and right back as well. So, what's the verdict in this one? No surprises here. You probably say that, Arsenal and City lead the pack on this one. So I'm going about, out of 10. I give Newcastle a solid 8 out of 10 in terms of their defense. Probably give Chelsea a 7 out of 10, 7.5, because, they've not really been proven as a unit. We don't really know who the pairing is, what the strengths are. And then City, you've got to go. You've got to go City 9 out of 10 there. Liverpool, I'll probably drop them just a tad, just because of Van Dijk aging, and then Konate is always injury prone a little bit. I'll probably say that the defense for Liverpool is 8 out of 10, and then Arsenal is a 9 out of 10. So I'll say Arsenal and City are leading that pack, but I'm just gonna go slightly Arsenal. Why? Because they kept the most clean sheets last season. Obviously, David Raya got the golden boot and considered the fewest amount of goals. I don't see that backline regressing. And to be fair, Arsenal's backline has probably been one of the best things that Mikel Arteta has done since he came into Arsenal. So Arsenal takes the edge on the backline there on the defense. Okay, this is where it gets really tasty now, because we're going to talk about the midfield, the engine room. Now, this is where, there's going to be lots of debates, and I do welcome it. Put it in the comments as well. Let me know what you think about what I'm about to say now. But for Arsenal, you got Declan Rice, defensive wall. You got Odegaard, orchestra in chief. You've got Zubimendi, who's coming there for Partey, who's departed. And then you've got Norgard, who's also coming as well. Merino, Havertz can come in and do a job if needed. Waneri can come in and do a job if needed. And of course, we'll be hearing about Max Doman as well, who could potentially come in. So I'm going to be keeping my eye, on the preseason to see how much of Max Doman do we actually see. But you know that you got Fabio Vieira, but I think there's more likely than not he's leaving the club. Same with Lokonga as well. Okay, so let's look at Arsenal's rivals. Right, let's start with Newcastle. You got Bruno Gyökeres, right? Joe Linton, energetic. Joe Willock, energetic. There in that midfield. You got Jacob Murphy as well. Who can also slim in, kind of slot in towards the forward. Probably one of the most underrated players in Newcastle, actually, because he does come in with very, very vital goals. And then you've got Harvey Barnes as well, who can actually, probably is more in the forward line. I'll probably put Harvey Barnes more in that forward line as well. But that the rock of that, is Joe Linton, Gyökeres, and Tonali. He came back last season and was actually a revelation. And then you've got Chelsea, you got Endo, you've got Caicedo, you've got Cole Palmer there. I mean, arguably, you could say that Chelsea have got a lot of talent in that midfield. Again, chemistry might be the thing that might let Chelsea down. I mean, it's all well and good doing in the Club World Cup. It's only a couple of games, but 38-game season, you're going to need to work out that chemistry as well. And I know that Chelsea's midfield can be a bit streaky. They can go on a good run. But what happens when they start having some injuries? Who can come in? Who can make that difference? And there you go, Liverpool. McAllister, Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, Endo, electric, and don't forget Gravenberch, who absolutely, he was amazing. They've also got Florian Wirtz, who's just come in there, so that takes the midfield up a notch, as well. City, Rodri, the monster, the master, Kovacic, Bernardo, Foden, Doku. Obviously, they've lost De Bruyne, and that will make a lot of difference to any team. But I would say that when I look at all of these teams and I'm ranking them out of 10, I'll give Newcastle a solid 8 out of 10. I'll give Chelsea, and the Chelsea fans are gonna hate me now, probably give them a 7.5 out of 10 in the midfield. Arsenal, I'll give them an 8 out of 10 in midfield, maybe 8.5, just a bit slightly 8.5. I'll give Arsenal 8.5 out of 10 in the midfield. And then you've got Liverpool. I'll probably say that Liverpool, I'll give them an 8.5, 8.5 out of 10. And then City are clear. They're 9.5, right? I think that City's midfield is still the strongest in the league right now. So while Arsenal's midfield is maturing into something special, I think City's midfield still rules. So, but I think Arsenal are really, really close, really close. And you probably say that after City, you probably have Arsenal and Liverpool just vying for that next position. Again, top 4, but not number 1 in that department in the midfield. Okay, let's talk about the forwards, because this is where titles are won, right? And this is where it's really going to be determined, I believe, this season in the league. Arsenal, let's start there. Starting with Arsenal, you got Saka, you got Jesus, Martinelli in that forward line, Havertz, and now you've got Nordi Madueke. Now, I think for me, the X factor with this part of the pitch for Arsenal is Gyökeres. if he comes in, right, because right now, as we stand today, I know it hasn't been announced and everyone is saying it's pretty much done. Arsenal don't have a 20 goal a season striker. Gyökeres in the mix changes things considerably. So you've got to think about that. Hold that thought with Gyökeres. Let's start with Newcastle. Isak, Elanga, Wilson. Now, Newcastle, I would say they're a bit streaky, they're clinical, but they can blow hot and cold in that forward line. And there's no wonder that Newcastle were linked with Etikite, as well. And, it seems like Liverpool are going to get him, so that really makes a huge difference. Then you've got Chelsea, you got Liam Delap, you got João Pedro. Now, we saw João Pedro in Brighton, and he's a very good player. What is he going to be in Chelsea? I think is yet to be seen. He showed flashes of brilliance in the Club World Cup, scoring 2 goals in the final. So he's going to be a handful. But Chelsea need to figure out what they're going to do with Jackson as well. You got Nkunku, which at the end of the transfer window might no longer be in Chelsea because you hear the rumors about potentially him leaving the club as well. So I will say that Chelsea's forward line is talented, but I would say a bit fragile. Then you've got Liverpool, Salah, Nunes, Diaz, if he stays, Gakpo. And probably something that it's been understated about how Liverpool won the league last season. And that was because they had players in that forward line who could drop in, and do a job. They scored goals, important goals at certain times of the season. And that's important because we all know what happened to Arsenal. A few key injuries in those forward positions, and we had a midfielder playing up front. I don't know if Liverpool had the exact same situation that Arsenal had, whether they would have a midfielder who can go up front and score goals. So that's something that I would not be thinking that Liverpool will be doing the right thing if they start to sell Nunes or Diaz. They're probably going to need them, for cover. But then again, the problem is, can you keep those players happy on the bench? So there's a lot to be sorted out in Liverpool. And of course, Jota tragically passing away. We don't know how much of that is going to affect that group, as well. So Liverpool, something to look at. And then, of course, City. All you need to say is Haaland. That's it. That's it, really. Game over, right? You can talk about Foden, you can talk about, Doku, you can talk about Mamouche that's coming and have done good things, right? But it's Haaland. That is the gold standard. So if we're rating, this department, 9 out of 10, I'll probably say that Newcastle, I'll give Newcastle an 8 because of Isak. I think that Isak is an unbelievable player. If he does anything like what he did last season, Newcastle are going to be in with a shout. Chelsea, I'll probably give them a 7.5, out of 10 in their forward line. There's really no standout player, and we don't know anyone in that forward line who can score 20 goals. Of course, you got Cole Palmer there who can produce and score as many goals as that. But I think they're going to need a little bit more than just Cole Palmer to do that job for them. And they've got Liverpool, still very elite. I think that with the fact that they brought in a Kitike, I never pronounced that name properly, so pardon me. We're all getting used to that. So him coming in, I think is going to do great things for Liverpool. And then Florian Wirtz coming in as well. I think he steps in and does what Trent Alexander-Arnold used to do, especially with the passing, there. So I would say that Liverpool, I would give them a good 8.5 out of 10 because I don't think they've really regressed from last season. And then you've got City. City 9 out of 10. You've got to give 9 out of 10 because you've got Haaland. And then Arsenal, I'm going to give them 2 scores, right? I would say that Arsenal's forward line is probably 7.5 going to 8 right now. But if you bring Gyökeres in, I think that changes the picture. I think Arsenal's forward line now starts to then compete, but there's still a lot of unproven there. So I'll probably go 8.5, out of 10, for Arsenal. But you can see where this is going, right? I would say City edges this in the forward position, then Liverpool, then Arsenal. Now we're talking about top 3 now. So in all those parts of the pitch, right, you probably say Arsenal only edges it in the defense. Now, let's be real. Arsenal are close, very close. The squad is deeper than last year. smarter, I believe, more experience, and they're going to have that hunger. You don't go 3 times so close without having that bitter taste in your mouth and just thinking, we can just do it. We can do it. We need to right the wrongs of last season. And the one missing piece I think a lot of people are talking about is a 20-goal striker, not to take away from what Arsenal had, but to add. And I think that's where that striker could drag Arsenal over the line in a lot of games. Remember how many games that we drew last season? Imagine if we had one player to score just one goal in either of those games. You turn those 13, 14 draws into wins, half of them into wins, and we'll be right up there with Liverpool and potentially winning the league. Don't come at me with if, buts, and maybes. We all know that that's the reality. So right now, Arsenal are in the top 2 in nearly every category, but you don't win titles on paper, right? You win them with killer instincts. You win them with relentless energy, with hunger and the right culture. And don't forget the mentality to bounce back from setbacks. So, guys, what do you guys think about this? Are Arsenal truly, truly ready to win the league with what they've currently got in the squad? Or do you think that there are other teams out there that have got a better squad overall than Arsenal? Let the debates go. I want to see it in the comments as well. Have your say, join in the conversation, and tag Gooner Pavilion, wherever you go, and let people tune into this as well.